big chunk of yesterday's show was talking about Briere's approach here, and I think there is a time to kind of be boastful, to kind of be the Flyers of old, and there is a time to kind of take a step back and go, we're just like, don't be your own obstacle. When momentum is going in your own way, like, just let it happen, you know? And that, I got to give Briere a ton of credit for, listen, I haven't loved every single move he's done. Overall, Danny Briere has done it, especially if this thing gets done, and we don't know yet. It really feels like it's happening. There's so much smoke that, like, why wouldn't things just like kind of go this way?
Yes.
But we don't know yet. But if he gets this done, man, his first year on the job, basically, pretty rousing success.
I would say that, in my opinion, it's hard for me to have any serious issues with anything he has done since being named the full-time GM. I think there is probably a reasonable case to be made. I don't even blame him for this. I just think he was put in an impossible situation. There's probably a reasonable case to be made that he could have handled the March conversation with Gauthier better. But the guy was just named interim GM. He didn't really have the full understanding of the nature of that relationship. That, to me, was just and I think Gauthier probably has ego issues as well, but that was a consequence of the organizational chaos that became necessary because the Flyers put themselves in such a bad spot.
Yeah.
I don't really blame Briere, even if it turns out we find out 5 years down the line that Briere said the wrong sentence in a conversation with Gauthier. I'm not going to pin him on that. But I do think one can reasonably theorize that Briere could have played that better, but that was while he was interim GM.
Yeah.
I think that since he's been named full-time GM, it's hard for me to quibble with really anything he's done, and I am extremely impressed that he's picked it up so quickly. Because my big concern about his hire was that, okay, he really doesn't have that much front office experience, and you're going to just name him the GM, and his president of hockey ops is going to be a guy who, and I love Jonesy, great dude, but let's be honest.
He has no hockey ops experience.
He doesn't have hockey ops experience either. He's been on WIP and NBC for the last 10, 15, and Comcast Sportsnet, then NBC Sports Philly.
He's been doing that for 20 years.
He's been a TV guy for 2 decades, TV and radio guy. It was reasonable to have concerns that there would be a learning curve for Briere, and I think Briere has... I think at the very least, even if you are not in love with everything he's done, at the very least, Briere has been a middle-of-the-pack quality GM with essentially no front office experience. So if this is his learning curve, you would think like, hey, once he's really got the hang of this, is he going to be even better? I guess we'll see. But I'm very impressed that he's picked it up as quickly as he has.
I'll quibble with one point in terms of no front office experience. He learned a shit ton about what not to do.
Fair.
As assistant general manager.
Fair.
But no, I think, like, yeah, the Gauthier stuff, and we've explained, I think, what we believe happened, how we've pieced this together. Now, listen, one of the 2 top prospects in this organization, a guy who ended up being a Hobie Baker finalist, led the nation in scoring, NCAA in scoring, like, that is on his watch.
Sure.
So you have to, even if I'm willing to kind of go, I'm putting this in the big pie chart of whose fault this is, it's mostly Gauthier. Briere deserves some blame.
Yeah.
Like, even if it's literally just his first day on the job, like, you were the guy.
Yeah.
Even with the interim. So you do have to put that on him somewhat. Also, it's a function, like you said, that I don't know if he said this directly, but like, Cutter, this place is a shit show.
Our house is on fire at the moment.
I'm not worried about the fucking stained glass windows. I'm worried about like getting my family out of the building. Like, can I call you next week? Like, can we have this conversation when the fire is out?
Yeah.
And like, maybe that wasn't the right way to handle it. But like, that's kind of what I think happened. And didn't go the Flyers' way. But since then, pretty damn good.
Yeah, I mean, the Fedotov...
You got 2 first-round picks for fucking Ivan Provorov, who had to go.
Yeah, that's really true. And you got multiple second-round picks.
Yeah, and seconds.
Yeah, I mean, you dug up Sean Walker out of nowhere. You get Fedotov over here. There's a lot of things that he did. Because what we've talked about on multiple occasions is the biggest thing that I like about Briere thus far, and this is the biggest distinction he's made between him and Fletcher in my mind, is that Briere actually has creativity. And creativity isn't necessarily something that you have overnight. You know, sometimes maybe you have to develop that by learning on the job, learning the intricacies of negotiating, learning the intricacies of the CBA, things like that. It just seems like Briere has, just like he did as a player, he has a natural creative streak that Chuck Fletcher, who just seemed like a very like thinking inside the box kind of general manager, Briere is willing to go outside of it. And I wasn't sure if he was going to have that ability right away. I wasn't sure if he was going to have that ability at all, but I wasn't sure he was going to have it right away. The fact that he's shown that he can execute a Provorov trade, that he can get a first-round pick for Walker, even if no one's offering a first straight up for a guy who 7 months ago no one wanted. The fact that he found a way to get Fedotov out of the, Russia after missing a year for being in military service. There's a lot of creative things that Briere's done, and I've been impressed.
And just like even this Fedotov extension that I was somewhat critical of.
A lot of people were.
And I mean, like, it's a lot of money.
Yeah, it is.
3.275 for a guy with basically no NHL experience. It's
objectively an overpay.
Like, it's an overpay.
And they know that.
But we're going to talk about the cap situation in a little bit. On Cap Friendly, you just look at what the Flyers are paying for goalie. Under $5 million.
Yeah.
Like, all right, you overpaid one guy, but you also, the dude who's probably going to start 45, 50 games for you is making under 1.5.
It gives
him having that foresight to get that extension done
with
Ersson allows them to be like, yeah, we're overpaying Ivan Fedotov because he just had to buy out of a KHL contract. But guess what? We're paying under $5 million for our two goalies next year.
This was a little bit of a luxury. Like, Fedotov was a bit of a luxury ad.
Yeah.
Because they could have just went out and signed a backup, signed Anthony Stolarz in the offseason to be the support for Sam Ersson. But they really like this guy. And they just want to see, I think, what they have in him. They have the opportunity to see what they have in him. And they're willing to pay an extra $1.5 million a year to just finally figure out what Ivan Fedotov is. Was it an overpay? Yeah, and I think they would admit that. But as you said, because they had the foresight to sign Ersson when they did, knowing the situation that probably was looming with Carter Hart, believing that Sam Ersson is a quality NHL goalie, having that scouting foresight to have confidence in him as a player, it gave them the ability where they can spend a little bit extra to figure out what the hell they have in Ivan Fedotov.
We all silly like the mayor.